Oh,
Is your wife younger than you?
that's why.
Hi everyone, Kieran here. Welcome to today's episode of Coffee Tea Money Talk. Today's topic is something serious that everybody is very concerned about. It's about estate planning. I have to be a little bit more serious because we have a very honorable guest over here. We have Vanessa over here, which is our managing director for PFP Legacy, and of course, Lenin.
Hello, everybody.
Before this, Vanessa sent me one whole list of things to her profile for me to introduce, but it's really too much for me to read it lah. So I guess I leave it to her to introduce herself. Vanessa, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa. So I'm the Managing Director of PFP Legacy, and basically what we do at PFP Legacy is we assist clients with their estate planning, and we are a one-stop estate planning solution. So we do wills, LPA, AMD, we assist them with their CPF nomination sometimes as well. And we also frequently conduct seminars on estate planning to educate the public and the masses on this subject, and basically why having a will and an estate plan is so important.
So Vanessa, I think you talk about many things that people might be very confused about. I think you talk about will, you talk about AMD, estate planning. Maybe you share with us what's the biggest difference between will writing and estate planning to our audience over here.
So basically estate planning is the process of managing and the distribution of your assets in the event of unexpected or expected situations, like when someone passes on. It is also about taking care of your dependents, making sure that their needs are being catered for in the event that you're no longer around. And so will is actually one component of estate planning. There are other tools involved also, like LPA, CPF nomination.
So what is LPA?
LPA stands for the lasting power of attorney. So unlike the will, which I think more people know what it is about the distribution of assets after you pass on, right? LPA is about appointing people we call donees to take care of our personal welfare and our financial affairs in the event that we lose mental capacity.
So basically like coma and things like that.
Yeah, or dementia, Alzheimer, that counts as well.
So LPA to help my customer take trade, is it?
Take trade?
Take trade as in...
Take trade.
Yeah,
Take trade. I think you're referring to those.
Because he wants to buy shell shares, can he do that or not using LPA?
I suppose he could, yes.
He could?
So basically, LPA allows you to manage the donees are allowed to manage your financial affairs.
Yeah, exactly.
So in the event that there are stocks that needs to be liquidated, they can do that as well. You can give them the right to invest your money, or you can also prevent them from doing so.
Okay, so basically you are giving them the power to act on your behalf lah. Am I right to say that?
Yeah, and in two broad categories. So personal welfare, which is how you want to be taken care of, where do you want to live, what sort of treatment you want to receive, and then financial affairs would be things like managing your property, managing your monies, etc. Yeah, and to use it for your well-being and your medical needs.
Based on your expertise, normally how are your clients, or based on what criteria would be someone best to select their donees in this scenario? So
like what kind of people are suitable to be your donees? There are actually several legal requirements for donees. For example, they must be an adult, 21 years old and above. And if you are appointing a donee to manage your property and affairs, another thing to consider is that they cannot be an undischarged bankrupt. So their financial situation has to be healthy. They have to prove that they are financially responsible, capable adults, and preferably someone you trust, of course, and someone you think can understand your wishes well.
So normally it's one people or a group of people? Or?
You can nominate and you can appoint more than one. Usually, some of our clients, they nominate the same person to manage both aspects. Some of them choose to nominate or appoint someone to manage their personal affairs, and then another person for their financial matters. So you can appoint either sole donees or joint donees, where they have to act jointly together so that ensures some kind of like check and balances also.
Okay.
Just now you mentioned what AMD. What is AMD?
AMD stands for Advance Medical Directive. So it is basically stating your intentions that whether or not you want life-sustaining treatment in the event that you are terminally ill. So this has to be done with a doctor. And I think it also relieves the stress and pressure of your family members for, instead of letting them decide this for you, you make this decision way in advance.
So curious, right? So you're saying that when actually a client actually look for you, they at one go, they do estate planning, they do AMD, they do LPA, or how this
sequence like?
Yeah, how this sequence like?
Yeah.
Wow.
So estate planning is actually like a broader picture. We plan for emergency, unexpected situations. We plan for in the event that we pass on. So there are several components and estate planning tools, we call it. So there's the will, of course, and then there's LPA, AMD, so CPF nominations. So what we usually do with our clients, what our estate planners do, is that when a client comes in, we speak to them, understand their family situation, their circumstances, their finances, and then we also seek to understand what are their wishes. Not just for themselves in the event that they fall very ill or they lose mental capacity, but what are their wishes for their family members? What's the sort of legacy that they want to leave behind, and how do they want all these things to be managed in the event that they can't do it for themselves anymore? Okay. So I think there's a lot of thought process, there's a lot of understanding of your intentions, your values, and then subsequently we will see how we can actually put it into all these legally valid documents.
So Vanessa, what I'm hearing from you is that there will be a chance where people actually write a will, but they do not have an estate plan. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, actually that is very common in Singapore for some reason. So I think there's this misconception that writing a will equals to estate planning, which is they feel that as long as I've stated my intentions, I want a percentage of my assets to go to whoever, that is sufficient. But actually that's one of the most common misconception that we come across. The reason being because there are other things that we have to consider, like our liabilities, our debts. That has to be managed also, otherwise it might become a potential issue for your dependents or for your family members.
Why is that an issue in that context?
So most people, their property, their house is one of their largest asset.
Liability, or in a sense.
Yeah,
okay.
But it is not exactly an asset until it has been fully paid off. So if it is not fully paid off, you cannot actually transfer this to your beneficiaries or whoever you want to transfer it to. The bank will still mandate that the mortgages have to be paid for. And then the next question is, do your dependents actually have the capacity to take on this loan? So these are things that we have to consider and plan for before we simply decide to put it in our will, like what are the things that I want to give to whom.
So it's more on a thought process for the estate planning.
Yeah, a calculation, a financial calculation basically.
And will is just a legal way of writing all these down in a proper way.
That's right. And also, there are people that you have to consider to appoint inside your will. For example, the executors, trustees, guardian if you have minor children. So there are all these aspects to consider as well.
Lenin, you done your will already, no?
No, yeah lah. I'm so young.
Okay, so Vanessa, for people like Lenin that haven't written a will, what's the difference between?
I would say definitely Lenin has to do his will soon, because what's going to happen to all your multiple assets, right?
And what are potential challenges that the family members or dependents might face to actually inherit the assets?
So in the absence of a will, usually the family members have to apply for something called the letter of administration. This can be done through a probate lawyer. And then I think the complicated part comes in when they have to uncover all your assets. And given that you have, so many international assets, different digital investments.
I know something about it.
Yes.
So it becomes like a process of treasure hunt. Them trying to find out what you have, where is it held with, and also the next important question is who is going to be the administrator. Is it going to be your parents, your siblings, your spouse? Do they have that kind of emotional capacity to manage this in the event of a sudden death? I think that can be quite stressful for family members if this estate plan is not being set in place early on.
So Vanessa, you also mentioned something about discovering about different assets that probably Lenin has, right? So normally, how do you advise clients in this area? Like is it part of the estate plan that you actually wrote for clients, or how does it done in your style?
There is something called the Schedule of Assets. This is also something that most people are unaware of, unfortunately. They think that when, after I've completed my will, that's the end of it, right? But the Schedule of Assets is an accompanying document that the court needs when you subsequently apply for the grant of probate. It lists out all the assets that you own, basically. And, well, surprisingly, because most people would assume, my family members should know what I have. But we found out that in real life, this is usually not the case. Because especially with the prevalence of digital investments nowadays, unlike the past where a lot of things are in hard copy, So it becomes difficult to go on a trail to uncover all these things, and which is why we have a situation of a lot of frozen assets in Singapore being held by the government.
I see.
Then, if that's the case, then how do you go about advising client about these frozen assets?
What we do is we get them to list down all the assets that they have. This includes things like properties, bank accounts, your investments, your stocks and shares, also insurance policies as well, because usually there are huge payouts involved. So we list all these things down in a document, and so that family members in future, when they need to execute the will, they are able to refer to this schedule of assets.
I have one question. So let's say, for example, if I only right now...
You share one question,
I mean, it just popped up to my mind that, let's say, for example, I list down all my assets at this point of time, and I manage to, acquire more assets as I go along, right? By right, it should be the case lah. Then, should I find back a lawyer to list all this, find back you all to list back this schedule of assets or whatever, not?
So schedule of assets is something that you do not need a lawyer or even an estate planner to help you with. It's something that you can even do it on your own. And we recommend that clients look at it as kind of like your sense of achievement. There's this document that you look at from time to time. You note down what are the new assets that you've acquired over time. So it's definitely not a one-time job. You have to review it from time to time, especially when you know that you've acquired a huge asset.
You will need to review
I want to ask her, So usually, how often do you actually recommend the client to review their estate or
asset
will?
Listing.
I don't think there's actually a fixed time frame. On average, we would say 1 to 2 years. We look at it. Yeah, or even
too
more
short,
often.
too short for you.
So whenever you know that you've acquired a new asset, whenever you know that you've sold something off, you bought a new insurance policy, then it's time to update your schedule of asset listing.
Maybe you want to buy something in Thailand. Okay.
So I think the other part is that, for example, I don't have a lot of assets. Do I still need a will in that context? Because I think for my case, it's very simple. If anything happens to me, most of my assets will go to my parents. I think this is what I want to also. So in that case, do I still need a will?
So in Singapore, there's something we call the Intestate Succession Act, right? Which basically states how your assets will be distributed in the event that you do not have a will. And sometimes people's instructions or what they have in mind fits the ISA.
Yeah, like me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So, and they feel that, there's no need for me to draft a will.
Sorry, I want to chop you there a bit.
The Intestate Succession Act. It is a list of 9 rules that states what happens if you do not have a will, how your assets will be distributed.
Okay.
Yeah.
But for him, sure go to the parents, ma.
Yes, if you're single, you're not married, you don't have children, it goes to your parents 100%. Okay. And it will be split 50-50 between the both of them. So why is it still important to have a will? The reason is because, number one, you need to think about who to appoint as your executor. So without a will, the courts will appoint someone known as the administrator. So they will choose someone from your family members.
They choose lah.
Yeah, and they may not necessarily choose somebody whom you trust.
Okay.
Because they don't know the intricacies, your family dynamics, they don't know these people at all. So, number one, appointing the executor. That's something that should be done or can be done in a will. And the second thing also is, with and without a will, you go through two different processes. So with a will, you go through the obtaining the probate. Without, you go through the administration process, right? The latter is way more complicated and more expensive. So in terms of cost. In terms of time efficiency, the benefit of having a will definitely outweighs not having one at all. So even if your instructions are the same.
Similar.
Yeah.
And for Lenin case, it will be a lot more complicated, is it? Without will?
Yes, definitely. If you are married, you have children, especially minor children, I think that's really something to look at.
Why?
Things like appointing testamentary guardians. Yeah. Who would you appoint as it's kind of like a next best set of parents in the event that you're not around, or let's say a common disaster, you and your spouse are no longer around?
So what do you mean by common disaster?
Common disaster is what we term when two people pass on at the same time, or the time of death cannot be determined.
Okay.
And what is going to happen to your children then if both of their parents are no longer around?
So can you explain more on this common disaster? Because people might think, what's the chance? Maybe the chance is too low. It might not even happen. But assuming that it really happens, so how do this attribute to your estate planning or will writing? Let's say like me and my wife, we perish. So what's next? Some people they think, 50-50, So what's the complication that when this common disaster happens?
I think especially when there are children involved, the primary concern to me and to most people would be their minor children. If both parents are no longer around, who's going to take care of the minor children? That's something to plan for. And the second thing is joint assets. So things like your property, your bank accounts. So for example, for a joint property, the property would then, it won't be split 50-50. That's also a very common misconception. It will go to the younger party. The younger party would be deemed to have inherited 100% of the property.
Your wife is younger than you? Is your wife younger than you?
That's why. Okay, let's continue.
This is an issue lah.
Yeah, no issue lah. Listen to the expert first.
So, joint assets also, and usually in our will, we would always advise clients to have what we call a contingency clause. So in the event that your primary beneficiary, let's say your spouse, is no longer around, then where and who will your assets go to? Because nowadays, families, we travel together, we spend a lot of time together. I wouldn't say it's common disaster. It's not that common, but it happens. And we have seen that in a few cases in the newspaper, unfortunately. I think some years back, there was a family who took a road trip to Johor. And unfortunately, there was a car crash and the parents passed on, leaving behind two young children. And very unfortunately, when reporters interviewed their family members, a lot of them stated that they don't have the capacity to care for these two young children because they have their own responsibilities as well. So the fate of these two young kids is now very uncertain. Was then very uncertain. So that's when the government will step in, the MSF, and then look at perhaps putting them into foster homes, orphanages, things like that. And that's something that we do not want our children to face.
So anyway, I got one last question for you. So what is any final tips to our listener for estate planning that you think that is important that everybody should know?
I think the most important thing when it comes to estate planning is to actually shake off all the misconceptions that people usually have, which is that estate planning is only for the older people. I'm still young, I don't need to look into this. This is a taboo, why should I look into it? I think what has happened in the past few years, like the COVID pandemic, etc., has shown us that life can be very uncertain, very unpredictable. Throughout the course of my work, I've also visited many clients, regardless of their age, in the hospitals or in their homes, and they usually, in their final moments, this is something that's on their mind and they are rushing to do it. They would pay us additional amounts of money just to travel down to help them settle their will, LPA. So plan early, and your financial situation, or whether you're rich, whether you're middle income or low income, that does not matter, because an estate plan is suitable for everyone and it has to be done by everyone regardless of what is your income group. Yeah, I think these are the two things that we often share with the public.
How, Kieran, single, any question?
No, I think Vanessa actually mentioned a few things that I think is very important about LPA and will, and the difference between will and estate planning as well. Yeah, so very happy to have Vanessa again here to share with us some of the insights about difference between estate planning, will writing, LPA, is it LPA?
Yeah, lasting power of attorney.
And about the
AMD.
Yeah, these are a few things that I think a lot of people, even myself, are confused about. So I guess very happy to have her here. And of course, Lenin. Yeah, so if you have any questions about estate planning, will writing, drop us a DM. We'll be more than happy to invite her again back to our talk show.
Remember to like and subscribe.
Yeah, see you.